I gave my boss 18 months of loyalty, built every system from scratch. On Friday, he said, "We're bringing in someone with more vision, you'll train him." So I did. But I also gave him outdated files, wrong passwords, and deleted all my documentation. Now the site's crashed, the client's furious, and I'm watching with a margarita. I started working for Mark's company when it was barely more than an idea. They had a logo, a messy slide deck, and no real product. He hired me after a 20-minute Zoom call and a vague promise about making something big. The pay wasn't great, but I was coming off a layoff and I needed the job. I figured I'd help build the product, get some experience, and maybe grow with them. I didn't expect to stay long, but then I got pulled in. Mark wasn't technical at all. He talked like he was, used buzzwords, threw out phrases he probably picked up from TechCrunch, but he couldn't code a hello world if his life depended on it. Still, he was charming in that startup CEO way. He made you feel like you were part of something exciting. I wanted to believe him. From day one, nothing worked. No proper version control, no servers, no staging environment, no test suite. I spent the first month just fixing the mess from the outsourced devs they'd used before me. It was chaos, but slowly I brought order to it. I set up clean repos, created proper CI/CD pipelines, wrote tests, documented everything. I designed the infrastructure to scale, even though we barely had users at the time. I took pride in it. I worked long nights, weekends, holidays. There were days where I didn't leave my apartment. I had food delivered and worked 16 hours straight. My girlfriend at the time started getting frustrated with me. She said I was married to the job. Eventually she left. I didn't fight it. I just worked harder. When things started to pick up, more users, more funding interest, Mark praised me publicly, called me the engine of the company, told investors I was mission critical. That word stuck with me. It felt like everything I did mattered. I got drunk on that feeling. But after the series had closed, things shifted. It wasn't just about building anymore. It became about showing off. Mark hired a bunch of his old friends from a failed fintech company he used to work at, product people who didn't understand tech, a VP of ops who spent most of her time posting motivational quotes on Slack, an innovation strategist who literally just made PowerPoints. It became all meetings, no substance. They stopped inviting me to product strategy calls. One day, I found out they redesigned the dashboard UI without telling me, the same one I had built from scratch. I wasn't even mad about the changes. I was mad no one thought to include me. And then Mark started acting weird with me. Less friendly, more distant, critical. He told me I wasn't thinking big enough, that the code base was too complex and not scalable, even though it had never once failed under load. He asked me to start simplifying things for the next phase, whatever that meant. I felt like I was being slowly pushed out, but I kept telling myself I was overthinking. Then came the Friday meeting. It was just me and Mark on a video call. He was smiling, fake as ever. Said he had exciting changes to share. He told me they were bringing in someone new, an experienced engineering lead, with a track record of scale. He said I would report to him now, that I'd be training him over the next few weeks. Said it was a great opportunity to grow. I just sat there, staring at the screen. I asked if I was being demoted. He said no, not at all. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what it meant. He wanted me to train the guy who would replace me. I was calm on the call. I said I understood. I smiled. I even thanked him for the opportunity. But something broke in me. All that work, all that time, it meant nothing. They wanted the systems I built, but they didn't want me. Not really. I was useful, not valued. So I made a decision. If they were going to treat me like I was disposable, I would leave them with nothing. That weekend, I backed up everything important to my own drive. I cleaned my machine, made copies of all credentials, and started preparing my exit. But I didn't do it in a rush. I made it look normal. On Monday, the new guy started. His name was Julian. Polite, eager, kind of full of himself in that tech bro way. He asked good questions, but he didn't really listen. He assumed he'd get it all quickly. That helped. I gave him the basics, told him where things were, set up his access, but with slight errors. One wrong letter in an API key here, one outdated version of a repo there. Just enough to work, but not for long. I forgot to mention certain dependencies, left out parts of the deployment process, gave him the wrong database path, then acted surprised when it didn't work. He thought it was his fault, apologized even. The internal documentation? Gone. Wiped clean from the Notion workspace. I deleted my local copy too, after printing a hard version for myself. The internal scripts that automated deployments? I moved them off the shared drive. The configs? I changed just enough so nothing could be reversed easily. By Friday, I scheduled my resignation email to go out Monday at 7 a.m. I cleared my laptop, left it charging on the desk, and walked out without saying goodbye. That weekend, I booked a small Airbnb 2 hours away, a little coastal town with spotty cell service. I brought a paperback, turned off my notifications, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Monday morning, I logged into my alt email and checked Slack from the web just long enough to see the chaos. The main product dashboard was offline. The client portal wouldn't load. The support team couldn't access logs. The deployment had failed badly, and no one could figure out why. Julian was asking questions. No one was answering. Mark was pinging me like mad. My email went out right on time. The last thing I saw before I logged off again was a message from one of the product leads. Does anyone have the old system documentation? They didn't, and they wouldn't. I stayed offline for the rest of that Monday. Didn't open anything. No Slack. No email. No texts. I just walked down the beach, read my book, and drank. I didn't even feel nervous. I thought I might, but I didn't. I felt calm, like I'd finally stepped out of something toxic I'd been drowning in without knowing. Tuesday morning, I checked my LinkedIn just out of habit. That's when I saw the post. It was from our biggest client, the one who paid us monthly to use our back-end software for their entire customer dashboard. It was vague, but I knew what it meant. A partnership is only as good as its foundation. When the tech fails and the team makes excuses, the trust is gone. We'll be moving on. They had over 20,000 followers. It was getting likes, comments. Other clients were asking questions in the thread. People were tagging Mark. Mark didn't post anything. But his co-founder, the one who was barely involved, the one who had shown up only after funding came in, posted a reply defending the company, blaming unexpected turnover. That got even worse replies. One person wrote, "If your platform breaks because one person left, your platform was never real." I couldn't stop staring at that comment. It hit exactly what I'd been trying to tell them all along, that I was the system, that they never listened, that all their process was fake without the one person holding it all up. Later that night, I got a text. It was from one of the junior developers I had mentored during my time there. He was new, straight out of school. Smart kid. Quiet. He had stayed out of all the politics. He wrote, "Hey, just wanted to say I understand. Everyone's panicking. Julian's blaming the old code. Mark said you left us exposed on purpose. People are scared." That last sentence stuck with me. People are scared. I hadn't thought about that. I wasn't aiming at them. Just Mark. Just the leadership that treated me like I was disposable. But now the dev team was stuck, trying to pick up pieces they'd never even seen before. The next day, things got worse. I got an email from a personal account, not Mark's company email. It was him. It was short and not friendly. "I don't know what you did, but you're putting us in a really dangerous spot. Clients are leaving. Julian can't get anything working. If you have any decency, send us the documentation. This doesn't have to end like this." I didn't reply. I saved the email. I started getting LinkedIn messages too. One from HR asking if I'd be open to a short call, another from a recruiter I didn't know asking if I was still employed there or looking. That part made me smile. Then Julian posted something. That shocked me. He made a post about toxic legacy systems and bad handoff from ex-engineers and how real professionals rise to the challenge. It was obvious he was talking about me. He even hinted that my code was hostile by design. That post took off, but not in the way he expected. A bunch of devs started roasting him in the comments. One reply stood out. If your job is to take over a system and you break it in a week, maybe the system isn't the problem. That reply got hundreds of likes. I didn't write it, but I pinned it. That same evening, the company's website went completely offline. Not just the client portal, everything. Their marketing site, the homepage, even the email server went down briefly. Someone must have triggered a deployment without checking the modified DNS configs I had quietly flipped before leaving. Mark must have lost it. I imagined him yelling in one of those glass-walled meeting rooms, sweating through that too-tight shirt he always wore, blaming Julian, yelling for someone to fix something they didn't understand. The best part? That wasn't even all of it. I had built a custom logging layer into the back end, something I added back when we were having uptime issues. It was meant to help me trace user sessions. It also captured admin actions. But Mark had never bothered to ask me how it worked. And neither had Julian, which meant that every failed login, every broken deployment, every config error, all of it was being logged to a private third-party endpoint I had set up long ago, still active, still sending me daily summaries. I knew exactly what was going wrong. I saw every crash in real time, every desperate patch. Every time they tried to roll back and it failed, I was watching them fall apart, and they didn't even know I still had eyes inside. And it was only Wednesday. By Thursday morning, I noticed something strange in the logs. Someone had tried to reset the root credentials on the main production database twice. Both attempts failed. Then there were multiple failed SSH attempts from an IP I didn't recognize. Whoever it was, they were trying hard to get access. I checked again that night. More failed logins. More alerts. Someone was poking around in the back end like a blind person in a dark room. It wasn't just carelessness. It was desperation. I started wondering if Mark had called an outside help. A contractor, maybe, or some consultant from LinkedIn with a shiny resume. But they were breaking things even worse. They clearly didn't understand the stack. Then, early Friday morning, I got a message on Telegram. That caught me off guard. Only a handful of people had that handle. It was the junior dev. He said he had something to tell me. They brought in a security guy, like an actual investigator. He's going through everything. I think they're trying to find a way to blame you. He asked if anyone knew where you kept personal backups. That hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't done anything illegal. I hadn't stolen anything. I gave them access. I trained Julian. I just didn't help them succeed. But hearing the word security guy made my stomach turn. He also told me something else. Mark had told the whole team that I sabotaged the code, that I planted time bombs, that I wrote fragile systems on purpose. He said I did it because I was bitter. I wasn't shocked. I knew Mark wouldn't take the fall himself. He'd never admit he set the whole thing up to fail by replacing the only person who understood the code with someone who barely asked the right questions. But what did surprise me was what the devs said next. Julian's quitting. He told me he's done. Said he wasn't told the truth. Said the system was way too advanced to be called legacy. He's already updated his LinkedIn. I went and checked. It was true. Julian's job title had changed to open to work. Just like that. 1 week in. That same day, I got an email, this time from a lawyer. Not a full-on legal threat. Just a letter of concern. Carefully worded. It said there had been operational issues following my resignation, and they were reviewing whether any actions during or after my tenure had contributed to material disruption. I forwarded it to a friend of mine who's an actual lawyer. He laughed. He told me they didn't have a case. I hadn't broken any agreements. I didn't sign a non-compete, and they'd never set up an offboarding policy. I didn't even have a formal contract, just a generic startup offer letter with stock options that never vested. Still, something about it shook me. I didn't feel as invincible anymore. That scared, guilty part of me started asking questions I'd pushed down before. Had I gone too far? That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat outside with a drink and thought about everything. Not just the company. Everything I gave up for that job. My time. My health. My girlfriend. The friends I stopped seeing. The weekends I worked through. The nights I woke up at 3 a.m. to fix someone else's mistake. And how it all ended with me training my own replacement. That bitterness came back fast. I remembered sitting in that video call while Mark told me I wasn't a long-term fit. Like I was a bad hire. Like I wasn't enough. So no, I didn't feel bad. Not when I woke up Saturday morning and checked the logs again. Not when I saw they were still trying and failing to push a stable release. Not when the last backup had been overwritten by corrupted data because no one fixed the scheduled jobs I warned them about 6 months ago. They were unraveling, and I wasn't touching a single thing. Just watching. Then something unexpected happened. Sunday morning, I got an email from one of the investors. Not Mark, not someone from a company. One of the original seed investors. A quiet guy. I'd only met him once during an early funding pitch. He barely spoke. Just watched everyone. But apparently he remembered me. His message was simple. I'd like to talk. Just you and me. Off the record. And just like that, the story changed again. I waited a day before replying to the investor. I wanted to think. I didn't know him, anything. He'd sat silent all those months while I was grinding. But I was curious. We set up a call for Tuesday morning. No Zoom. Just voice. He sounded calm. Older. Not the kind of guy who panics. He said he wasn't calling on behalf of the company. He made that clear right away. He said he'd seen what was happening, and he wanted to understand how things got so bad. He didn't mention Mark by name, but I could tell he wasn't impressed with the leadership. He asked one question that stuck with me. Were you the only one who understood the product? I told him yes. I explained how I built the backend from scratch, how there was no real documentation when I joined, and how the systems they relied on weren't plug and play. They were layered, built for speed, not simplicity. Smart, but brittle in the wrong hands. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, I had a feeling. He didn't push me about what I did. He didn't ask if I sabotaged anything. Maybe he didn't want to know. Or maybe he already did. Then he said something I didn't expect. I might be pulling out. He meant his investment. He didn't say it directly, but that's what he meant. I knew that would kill the company. He was their biggest early check. If he backed out, others would follow. He thanked me for my time, then hung up. No threats. No questions. Just silence. A few hours later, I got a message from that same junior developer again. Investor call happened. Mark lost it. Shouted at everyone. Said, you poisoned the whole company. Someone from legal is gone now. HR too. It's unraveling fast. I didn't even know they had a real HR, probably just a friend of a founder. Typical. Then that night, another twist. A new email. From a startup recruiter I actually knew. He wasn't fishing. He was direct. Just got off the phone with one of Mark's investors. He told me, you're the reason the product ever worked. Are you open to being CTO somewhere? It hit me in the gut. I had spent 18 months letting Mark take credit for my work. In every client pitch, every investor call, he'd stand there and talk like he built it all. Like I was just some helper in the background. But now, the people with money were seeing the truth. That without me, it was just air and pitch decks. That night, I got one last email. From Julian. He didn't CC anyone. It wasn't angry. I'm sorry. I didn't know what they were really asking me to do. I figured it out too late. I thought you should know. He attached something. A PDF. I opened it. It was a slide deck. A pitch Mark had shown the board a month before I left. My name wasn't on it. But my work was all over it. Screenshots. Diagrams I had made. Even quotes I had written in internal docs, lifted word for word. And at the end of the deck, a slide labeled, Next Steps, Replacing Engineering to Scale. Under it, Current engineer has limited strategic vision. System will be rebuilt under new leadership. I just stared at it. Julian wrote, One more thing, he was planning your replacement while you were still fixing the bugs. I'm sorry. I saved the deck. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The company was dying. The investors knew. The team was breaking. But I hadn't told anyone what I still had. Because what I built and what I destroyed was only half of it. There was more. And Mark didn't even know the worst part was still coming. I didn't respond to Julian. Not right away. I just sat with the deck, open on my screen for a long time, kept looking at that line. Current engineer has limited strategic vision. Like it was nothing. Like I was just a piece on the board they could slide off when it didn't fit their play anymore. I remembered the night I fixed the payment bug that almost lost us a 5-figure client. The weekend I rebuilt the deployment system from scratch after Mark accidentally deleted the original repo. The way I kept quiet when credit for my work was handed to someone else during investor meetings. And now I had proof, not just of how they erased me, but how they planned to. I spent the next week carefully putting together a single package, the logs I had saved, the private endpoints, the internal chat messages I'd exported before leaving, screenshots of the system still failing days after my exit, the slide deck Julian sent, the original onboarding plan they gave Julian, which I found tucked inside an old shared Google Calendar file still connected to my personal account. It said plainly, goal, transition all knowledge within 2 weeks. Engineer expected to support new lead, then exit. I also had something else, the investor call audio. I'd recorded it, not to trap anyone, just to remind myself later that someone, even quietly, had admitted they knew. It was enough. I sent one email. Not to Mark, not to the team, not even to the investor. I sent it to the client who had posted publicly on LinkedIn, just one line. If you're still wondering what happened, here's the truth. I attached everything. I never heard back. Didn't expect to. But 3 days later, they posted again. More direct this time. When a tech partner lies to your face, steals code, and hides systemic failures behind one man's back, you cut ties. We're rebuilding elsewhere. The comments exploded. Founders, developers, designers, all chiming in. It went viral in our little corner of tech. And under that post, a reply from another early stage startup I'd briefly consulted 4 years ago. Funny, we tried hiring their team 6 months back. Their CTO didn't know how their stack worked. Mark didn't reply, but I knew he saw it. Because the next day, the company website was replaced with a single line, "We're rebuilding. Please check back later." I checked the DNS. The records were stripped. I checked the product subdomain. Dead. The company was offline. Fully. Within a week, Mark deleted his LinkedIn. The VP of Ops who used to post daily grind quotes made hers private. The innovation strategist took a job in real estate. The investor never responded to me again, but I saw he'd removed the company from his public portfolio page. And Julian? He messaged me once more, said he was taking time off, said he should have walked sooner. I told him I didn't blame him. I didn't. He was just a tool Mark used to finish the job he didn't have the guts to do himself. As for me, I took 2 months off. Didn't work. Didn't write code. Just sat with myself. Tried to figure out what all that time had turned me into. Because here's the part no one tells you. Revenge feels good. But it doesn't heal you. Mark got what he deserved. The company collapsed. People stopped trusting him. His name won't carry weight in the circles he used to brag about. But I still lost 18 months of my life to someone who saw me as a tool. I still gave up my time, my peace, my sleep, my relationships, all for a promise that was never real. When I started again, I did it differently. I joined a smaller team, one that didn't care about LinkedIn posts or pitch decks, just people who built things honestly. I work fewer hours now. I don't chase titles. I don't trust fast talk. And I keep backups. Everywhere. I still think about that final call with Mark. About how he smiled when he told me I'd be training someone with more vision. He thought I'd take that quietly. He didn't understand that I was the only reason anything ever worked, and once I walked away, it was never going to work again. He learned that the hard way, and I made sure he learned it slow.